Aloha. This is Emily Thoreau-Threat with Reclaiming Your Joy After Loss. And today we're going to talk to Nicole Saxson. Am I saying it right? And she is the chaplain here at Maui Memorial Hospital. And we had a really interesting conversation about something she did there at the hospital. And so I thought it would be a good thing to share with you. And we're going to divide this video into two parts. So this one's part A, and then you can also watch part B when it's finished. What Nicole created that I thought was just wonderful is she has the opportunity to work with people who are near death frequently. And she was inspired to create something with one of her patients that I just thought was so cool. And I want to talk to her a little bit about that with you too. So Nicole, you were telling me that with this person, when you knew death was impending, you had asked him something about what would he like for a service or a funeral or memorial. And in that discussion, you ended up coming up with something really different, really cool.
Yeah, so this patient had been talking to me about the different ways that people were approaching death. Once he got to the place of accepting his own death, he was just really ruminating over how different people approached death. And I noticed that he was ruminating over this, and I floated the idea to him of a celebration of life, or what's commonly known as a living funeral. And he loved it. I got the sense that he wanted something big. He was like, he has a big personality. This really fell in line with who he was as a person. And when I told him that, you know, people will have the opportunity to say all these things to you while you're still living and you can hear them as opposed to saying them at the funeral, he loved that idea. He had gone through a lot of turmoil in his own life, so to have people express what it was that they really appreciated about him during this time felt very right to him. So, yeah.
Oh, that sounds like such a wonderful idea, because so many times after someone passes, we'll go, oh, if only I had done this, or if only I had told them. And I know when my husband Jacques died, we had the most incredible celebration that I could ever imagine. At the time, I owned a live theater, and he loved to perform there. And he knew so many people who were performers too. And his dear friend Mike Huey was living in Atlanta at the time, and I didn't know who to ask to facilitate the service, because he wasn't religious. He didn't want a religious service. He wanted something different. So we called Mike, and Mike said, sure, I'd be happy to do it. Just let me take care of the whole thing. And we said, okay. So he coordinated with my daughter and a friend of mine who was helping put things together so that we could include different people in the service with singing or playing instruments or that sort of a thing. And what he created was amazing. We did it at the theater, and it had... the place was jam-packed. People actually were sitting up on the stage too, because there just wasn't room for everybody, and the lobby was full, and people were even out on the sidewalk. But what he did was create a version of the play Our Town, and he played the part of the stage manager.
Oh, wow.
And orchestrated the whole thing from there. And one of the really cool things was Jacques was a singer, and used to, back in the olden days, did a live radio show in Los Angeles with just him and a piano. And I had an old 78 recording of him singing. So when people came into the service, Jacques was welcoming them by singing a song that we had broadcast. So it was really cool. But my one regret about it was Jacques would have loved this so much. I so wish we would have thought about doing something like this before he left, because it was just so perfect for him. It suited his personality, and he would have loved that. And I kind of think that's what you're going with here. And in our next video, we'll talk about the actual celebration that you had. But in this one, I'd like to have you talk about the idea of kind of celebrating life now, and what you think about that. What you think somebody could do about that?
Yeah, well, so I first heard about this when I was taking a death and dying course in divinity school. One of the projects that we had to do was to write our own eulogy. And my professor was talking about different ways that people approach death as well. And the idea of the living funeral came up. And so as soon as I saw that, I said, that's what I want. If I knew I had a terminal illness, I would so want that. And I think it's been kind of maybe not as popularized, but it's kind of known. Tuesdays with Maury, there was something similar that was done. Apparently this is a big thing in Japan as well. But the idea of it's in line with an old gospel song that I love that says, bring me my flowers while I yet live, so I can see the beauty that they bring. Speak kind words to me while I'm still living, so I can hear the beauty that they bring. To be able to experience all of that, the love and affection, especially when you're going through a period that for some folks can bring a lot of turmoil, right?
Yeah.
Because in this culture, death is not really something that's spoken about. It's kind of taboo to even mention at times. People don't want to fill out advance directives because they think it may bring death on. Like, there are all of these notions around death that can make it seem really scary. So this kind of ceremony kind of serves as kind of a birthing process into it that can make it more more of the norm. It can acknowledge that it's a fact of life. You get a chance, I think, for closure too, not just for the people around them, because I think a funeral after somebody dies, for a lot of people, it can serve as a point of closure. But for the person who is actually dying, it can bring a lot of closure and just a lot of peace. And I've seen that before. It's like, okay, I'm ready. I've seen people like holding on really until they can attend their own service. And it brought them a kind of peace. And it was like, okay, it's okay to let go now. And clearly it brings closure to... it can bring closure to family and friends. I even noticed in myself there was a different feeling after this death. So I work with a lot of people who die. And if it is somebody that I've worked with for a long time, some of these patients I've had like a year, 6 months, long periods of time, and you really develop a strong relationship with them. Like it can be very sad when they die. And I go through my process of different rituals that I do to help remember them and cleanse and appreciate our relationship. And I noticed after this particular death, I was okay. Like there was a sadness there, yeah, but it felt more like closure. I felt like I'd said everything that I wanted to say to them, because we had this point in the ceremony where people could go up to this patient's bedside and, say what they wanted to say. And I said everything I wanted to say. This person knew how much I cared for them. And it felt peaceful.
Oh, that's so wonderful. It's a great way to do it. I know when Ron died, we weren't really expecting that he was going to be dying when he did. And with living in Maui, he wasn't able to have contact with a lot of the people that he would have liked to. And so once he decided that it was like the day for him to go on hospice, he said, okay, with the absolute fabulous thing of being able to do FaceTime. He actually called and talked with FaceTime so they could see him and he could see them, to everybody he wanted to say goodbye to. And the whole week before he left, the house was full of people. People came over from the mainland. They were barbecuing, they were singing, they were dancing, and they were celebrating, and he was thrilled. It was just exactly what he wanted, and it made it so nice to take care of things before.
Yeah.
So there's like no regrets.
Exactly. What you said about taking care of things before, it makes me think of like advanced directives in particular. And so often I see in the hospital that there are no advanced directives, and so there's no idea what the person would want when they get into situations where they can't speak for themselves, or people have to like think and sit back and argue, and during times of a lot of tense emotions, it's not really the best time to be making these decisions. And so like to have this like taken care of before you get in a situation like this, I'm just like now realizing the importance of having things completed, or the peace that can be brought when you have things like advanced directives taken care of, or you have a living funeral.
Yeah, I talking of that, I think I need to do another video that's just on advanced directives. That was something Jacques and I used to actually do, because he was a bioethicist, and his specialty was living and dying. And he would do, he was on the ethics committee of a couple different hospitals, and he would do workshops on advanced directives, on how to fill them out and what you needed to do. And getting people to come was like pulling teeth, and even when they came, they wouldn't necessarily complete them. They'd say, oh, I'll take it home and do it later. So it's so critically important that I'm inspired for another video. So we're going to do another one. So what we're going to do right now, thank you so much for this, and we're going to end this one right now, but we will come back and have our part B, where we talk about the actual celebration that Nicole was able to do with this wonderful man, and how it worked, how it could be done. So it give you some food for thought, things to think about. So thank you very much for coming to Reclaiming Your Joy After Loss with Emily Thoreau-Threat, and I'll look forward to seeing you on more videos. Bye.